Okay, welcome to the structural geology video for while I'm gone. We're going to talk about making sketches, and we're going to do a basic sketch of a fault and how to pay attention to important things that are happening in bedding. And we're going to start with this particular outcrop because it is a fault and because I feel like we can pick out some pretty important things that are going on in this picture. So the first thing you would do if you came to an outcrop like this is you would figure out what is actually important for you to sketch. So for us, if we were studying faults in particular, we would find our marker bed, the one that's going to help us measure deformation across a fault or slip. So like this stripy bed really stands out to me. We would find those beds, and then that would help us narrow in on the zone that's important. So let's look around and see what we've got going on in this outcrop. You will always look in detail at your outcrop before you actually start sketching. So I have a stripe bed that comes across. It looks like there's a gap here in between. It comes over here. I've got a rubble pile, and I don't see that same outcrop on the other side, the same bed come out to the other side. Okay, above that I've got a red unit, a little bit of a weathering line, and then red to tan happening above that, and that's happening kind of gradually. So let's see, stripe, there's that, there's the weathering, kind of line in the middle, and then I see the red to tan. Now over here, I also see kind of a red unit and red to tan. So that unit that's right here goes underneath that rubble and comes out to the other side. And it kind of looks like it's repeated through here. So these look like tan tops. That looks like a tan top. That looks like a tan top. And that looks like that erosion boundary that's happening between. So we've got red, 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 tan, tan, tan. Kind of this angle relationship going through. Now if I look over here, this almost looks like these units turn and come up into there, which is kind of interesting. So this is definitely a fault surface, but these are also right in there and right there. Those are also important surfaces, and it looks like at least one of them continues down through here. Now that unit also looks funky, and we have a line feature right here that continues up. So down here, this kind of shows us why we need to sketch, because things like this are what you have to think through, and if you just take a picture, you're not going to spend the time that you need to really think through what's going on, especially because these units seem to turn. And then if that's the case, then this one might turn up, then these might turn up, but this coloration is similar to this coloration, so it looks like we have actually got kind of a back fold coming through here and then going up. Right, back and then up. So let's just focus on how we would sketch this main area. That's going to be the point of this particular video. So I've kind of got some mood light going on. That's just so that we don't have horrible glare from the lights above. And I'm going to take this picture and I'm going to put it over here so that we have it kind of in our view while we're sketching. Ideally, what you would do is you would have the outcrop in the distance, or you would be however far you need to be from it to see the features you care about. And then you would pick out your area that you want to pick out, and then you would start sketching. So let's start sketching a bit. I want to figure out what you guys can see and what you can't. All right, so edge of my board up here, down there. All right, I got it. Okay, so when you do a geologic field sketch, first thing is figuring out what you need. So probably I don't need to see a bunch of the sky, so I'm going to crop that out. This pattern seems to be the same going over here, so I'm only going to try and keep part of that pattern. So that's those black areas outline what I'm going to focus on. The next thing that you do is take some measurements so that you don't have to remember to do it at the end. So you record what direction you're facing, for example. And so let's pretend that we're holding our button and we find that we're facing west. So you have a couple options. You can either, you could write facing west at the top of your page, and of course you can't see that because I have gone just a bit above where you can see. And still you can't see that. Shoot, sorry guys. Gonna have to go a little bit lower. Perfect. Okay, so you could write facing west. You could also, on your area that you're gonna have to sketch in, so you're gonna pick half of your field notebook. So you're gonna pick one page of your field notebook. If you know you're facing west, then you know that to your left is south and to your right is north. So you could write those in. You could also read the direct like count off your button, the azimuth, and write that in. So if we're facing west, let's say it's 270 is where we're looking. We could write that too. All right, it's up to you. So now let's actually start the sketching process. So to start the sketching process, you're gonna do important outlines. So the first thing you do is maybe outline the basic shape of your outcrop. So I've got a wall over here that is important, and you can do this in a little bit of a darker color if you want. Okay, now you might think, well, how the heck did she just draw that? So what I did is I looked at this slope first that was coming up and being kind of rounded. So coming up, being kind of rounded, the slope dipped down and then it carried over. And so it actually looks like maybe I need to go a little bit farther. Dip down, carried over. And then I noticed that I've got this ledge that happens at around the same point that this is arcing. So I'm going to carry that ledge down. That ledge is pretty steep. And then I've got this slope that comes off to the right. So I'm going to carry that slope off. And that slope should end around the same point that this makes a turn. So I'm even a little higher up than I need to be on this. You're going to find that you erase quite a bit in the beginning when you're making a sketch. That's okay. That's normal. Okay, so I think I've captured that top pretty well. And then I'm going to level out that slope. Okay. Looks like these are vegetation areas. So what you'll do for that is, in the beginning, just make blobs. Okay? Doesn't have to be super artistic. These trees go just above the horizon. I'm going to make vegetation blobs. Okay, Bob Ross approved. Now, the other important features are the fault lines and that outcrop that goes on the right side. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to work my way up this way. So my outcrop goes over, and then just about underneath where that peak is, I'm going to transition to going upslope. And I'm going to go upslope until the last place I see upslope is below that steep side. Okay, and then I have a gap where I have talus, so that erosional material, and I'm gonna start the line that I see over that way. Okay. Notice I'm only drawing to the edge of the picture. I don't know what goes past that. And this line right here, I'm going to make a note for myself for what I think it connects to. So this is the bottom of the talus slope. The bottom of the talus slope, and it comes up and it kind of looks like it curves a little bit. I'm just going to draw in a few blocks so I remind myself that that's where my talus slope is. It can be really tempting to draw circles, but talus is not circle in this picture, so I'm not going to draw circles. The next thing I'm going to try and do is draw in some of these major fault lines. So one of them starts right up at the point between the hill and the vegetation, and it comes down at about the same angle as down here. So it goes like that. Now when it gets down here, it turns and then comes down and over. So before I get down to this corner, I want to make sure that I have made a turn. Do a little tip, and in that tip it makes a turn. Doesn't go up, it just goes over. And down, and then across to the edge. Okay, so now we can start drawing in this area. And I don't think I've drawn this totally right. See how much bulkier this is? It's not really how I've drawn it here. I think this needs to come over a bit more. Okay, I like that better. All right, so now let's draw in some of these finer areas. Okay, before that bulge, we've got this tip that comes over, and then it goes up, and that line looks like it goes up a little bit, but not too far, maybe toward the tip of the talus slope. Then there's one below it that does the same thing. And then there's this thick unit below that that goes down even lower. Looks like. And then it looks like it continues up, it almost rounds up. Okay. And then we've got units above that. Good, nice thick unit right there coming across. And then we've got kind of a pale unit above that one. Okay, now I'm going to start marking in some of these fainter lines down here. But I can't see them too well, so I'm just going to dash them in. Okay. This one, I can't tell where it goes, so I'm going to dash it. This top one, same thing. I don't really know what's going on, so I'm going to dash that in. Okay, now I'm going to pick one of my marker units, and I'm going to draw that one in a little bit more intensely. So for me, that's going to be that striped zone. I'm going to zoom y'all in so that you can see this part a little bit better. Let's see if I can't. Okay, that ought to work. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on that striped unit, this one right here. So this is this, and the pattern of that outcrop is these striped lines. Notice I'm not estimating, I'm actually going with the sketch. And it looks like it kind of comes out a little bit from the talus slope. Maybe not by that much though. And I'm doing this on a whiteboard, it'll be easier with your pencil. I might have drawn that a little bit thick. Okay, got that drawn in. Now I'm going to go up to the next spot I see it for sure, which is up here in this outcrop. And I'm going to draw it the same way. Now notice that this looks like it comes up a little bit and then down a little bit. In the picture, that means it's coming out toward us, but in real life we would see that. But we need to convey that in a sketch. So we're going to come out toward us a little bit, or up. Okay, and then back down. Okay, so that's conveying that that's coming up and out toward us. Now, you might look at this picture, I'm going to provide it to you guys later, but there's like a dark gray area in there, dark brown. It actually looks like those materials have been turned up and are filling in these spaces. So I'm going to draw that in. I kind of think that that's what's happening. I want to make sure that that gets conveyed. So I'm drawing that in. Okay, the next unit that I'm going to pay attention to is I'm going to call it red on the bottom, red tan top on top. And that's this block right here. So it's red on bottom with kind of a weathering boundary and then a red tan top on top. And it's thicker than this unit. It's about 100 and maybe 30, 140% that thickness. So I'm going to draw that over here. Same way, going back and then going in. I've maintained my bed thickness. To draw the weathering boundary, I'm just going to draw in kind of these little holes to show that that's what that boundary looks like, and we can write about it in words later. And then I'm going to put some little dashes in between. It looks like there might be another little erosion boundary within that bottom unit. Notice that these are all things I wouldn't have paid attention to if I had just taken a picture. And then on top I've got like almost like a diffuse tan color. So I'm going to draw that in. And you know, notice that if I don't put a label on this, I might be tempted to think that that's fracturing. So it's going to be really important that you label your sketches. All right. Now, over here, we have that semi-erosive middle layer that we had here, and we have our nice eroded middle layer. So I'm going to draw that in on this unit. Tilts it up. And then we've got that tan top unit right there. Same thing over here. It looks like we've got the eroded unit. And then the tan top unit. Okay. And then over here we've got a tan top unit. Maybe over here we see the starting of that one. And then on top of that, there's this kind of brown blocky unit. So you're not going to do this with guesswork. You're going to actually look at the outcrop and you're going to kind of draw in the fracture orientations. Later on, you can shade a bit. So when you shade a field outcrop, you don't shade with the sun. You shade to indicate depth in the outcrop. You shade to give a depth to your fracture patterns, okay? To show that they end up blocky. So notice how that doesn't make it look shaded, it just makes it look blockier. And that unit continues over here. It might be a little bit thinner on this side, but it does continue. Coming here, drawing in those joint sets that we talked about in class. With your pencil, if the joint sets aren't really important to you, you can make those a little bit fainter. You know, they don't have to be perfect, but they have to be representative. Okay, now up here, this unit gets really, really light and almost flaky. So I'm gonna draw kind of a light, flaky unit coming up. It's coming up on both of these. And it's above this, but it looks like it's maybe turned a different way right there. And then I'm gonna draw this blocky talus. Again, not drawing in circles because they're not circles. It's a talus slope. It's a blocky slope. Okay. That talus goes all the way up, just tucks in under those trees. Okay, right up in there. A little bit of darkness, a little bit right there. All right, now I'm going to make it clear that these are trees. To make a tree in your field sketch, you just kind of start a tree shape, and then trees tend to bifurcate. So you just keep drawing that, and then you'll give yourself kind of an outline of a tree. I don't want to include that in this sketch though, because that makes it look like the outcrop is smaller than it is. I'll just keep my little trees up here. They're fine. All right, I could keep going up here, but it's not really relevant to what I want to draw on the fault. Okay, so then what you might do, oh shoot, well, I would color that in too. Then you're going to want to notate your sketch. So you're going to write in what these things are and how big they are. So let's say you had a friend stand next to the outcrop. That's a good way to start your sketch. Then you estimate how many friends high that outcrop is. So let's say this is 10 friends. Each friend is 5 feet, 6 feet tall. So you might say that's 55 feet. And then you can paste some part of that outcrop. Let's say you paste that bottom and you found it to be 30 feet. Okay, so now you've got a direction, you've got a scale. You're going to label these units. So let's say we're going to label some of these fault surfaces with our arrows. It's down, it's up. This is probably continuous. Like, I wouldn't fault you for dashing that in. Cross that, that's something I might do. And then you can describe each of these units. So blocky and brown, weathered, tan top. You're going to describe these as best you can, and then later when you go back to your field camp, you can color in. I like to color, and just that helps me really trace my eye across the outcrop. So some things to think about are, 1, pick before you draw. Okay, don't need to draw the sky here. We don't need to draw all the talus slopes. So pick the important stuff before you draw. 2, find your scale and direction. 3, make a nice big sketch. Okay, if it's worth drawing big. Taking up a full sheet of your page, outline, important stuff. UFF, sorry. Okay, notice that I didn't try to make it artistic, okay? Like, the goal is to convey information. It's not to convey a pretty picture. If your sketch ends up pretty, good for you. You win for the day. But ultimately, your sketch just needs to convey information. So let's look and check that that's what I did. I've got my outcrop picture and my final picture, or the picture I would take in the field. All right, well, looks like a decent sketch. You'd want to finish that out, but you know, you could do that on your own time. All right, I'm going to give you guys this same picture, and I want you to try and sketch it. You're not going to turn it into me, but I think it's a good exercise. Thanks. Bye.